Today's a weird day to say the least. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of our final, if not the final looks at XDefiant here, as today, despite just announced a few weeks back that XDefiant would be sunsetting and ceasing operations, shutting down its servers in June of 2025, XDefiant not only dropped the regularly scheduled Season 3 update, but also the legitimate rest of the content they had planned for the game's lifecycle up until this point that was ready to ship. I don't know that I've ever seen a studio do that before, where it's awesome to have all that extra content, but in a way it's like almost beautifully tragic to see it all released at once, a sort of a last for the players type of moment that the game provided. So today, we saw an update that granted a ton of content. 3 new factions, not just one. The Assassins faction, which was the previously planned Season 3 faction with the passive of the Hidden Blade, which is melee for close quarters. The abilities of Eagle Vision and Cherry Bomb, where Eagle Vision sees trails and a red highlight of players, essentially a tracker perk. Cherry Bomb is a stun bomb to disorient enemies, and then the ultimate was the Apple of Eden, which would let you teleport to and stab opponents to get kills, but it's having a slight cooldown, so it's not something you can kind of spam. Wolves was another one that was for a future update that the passive was the Wolf Blood, where it made you invisible to electronic or AI-based gadgets, and the abilities of Legion and Stolas. Legion was a throwable drone that would seek enemies out and explode on impact, and Stolas was an attack drone that would move in line, firing at enemies in range. The ultimate of the drone swarm was a throwable beacon that calls in a swarm to destroy enemies in that area. And then finally, Omega Force was a very futuristic seeming faction for another future season. The passive of Cyborg Strength gave you the ability to disregard speed penalties from weapon classes and attachments. The abilities of the Shuriken and Shock Punch. The Shuriken was a throwable projectile that would take down enemies instantly. The Shock Punch being a short dash that would followed by a disabling EMP stun effect on enemies. And the Killstar Ultimate is a weapon that uses the player's health as ammo, dealing a massive damage in a constant destructive laser. Beyond that, we got not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 13 new maps to play around with here in the multiplayer variations, both across Arena, Linear, and then a new tactical mode as well. The 4 Season 3 maps were Mykonos, El Barrio, Jorvik, and Animus Anomaly. While the other maps, we had 6 future maps from the Arena modes coming into play and 3 new Linear maps. The Linear maps being Skell Complex, Esperanza, and Himalaya, while the Arena maps are Carlisle's Lab, Enchanted Forest, Killstar Temple, Razia's Realm, Skell City, and West End. We saw 6 new game modes added of Diffuse, which is a slower paced version of Bomb, versus bots, which would allow a team to play against bots to just simply warm up, but also still earning some XP for weapons and overall progression. Lum Hunt was a variation of Hotshot for the Enchanted Forest map. Tilt is a variation of the linear modes, kind of like a tug of war over Carlos the robot, not necessarily just stopping him in its tracks. If the team pushing it doesn't actually end up making progress towards it, the defenders can actually push it back. Turbo XD allowed for super jumps and gravity-defying physics, and then the new maps Mosh Pit allowed you to see all of those maps that were added that were a part of future seasons. We had 6 new weapons added, beyond again just what was introduced with the Season 1 introductions: the FAMAS NG36K rifles, the M1928 Tommy Gun SMG, the MGR LMG, the SRS Sniper, and the Diceros pistol. The Spider Bot was redesigned, where it now follows the player that calls it in for 30 seconds, emitting an electromagnetic pulse that disrupts all enemy equipment within a 10-meter radius. The Prestige mode was finally added in here, the sort of progression system with that, where its prestige is 1 to 10 with the ability to prestige after completing all item challenges. Badges are now introduced with hidden unlock criteria. There's Faction Mastery for players to now earn bronze, silver, and gold skins, which is pretty cool, and then daily rewards. Honestly, all of the new content plays rather well, I think, from the couple of hours that I got hands on earlier in the day. The biggest standout to me was the maps. Not kidding, I think that they finally found their footing here at this, unfortunately, right as everything is shutting down. There were so many cool ones added to the sort of rotation and how they're built out, how they look, how they play. My personal favorite was that Killstar Temple. That actually might be my favorite map in the entire XDefiant offering from when the game launched and into the betas and before that. A castle temple with a portal set into the center citadel of sorts. It was just really cool. In design, it was such a fun map. Everything else, honestly, Mykonos looks beautiful. And I can say that about a couple of different maps. But again, what's crazy is that you have to remember the climate surrounding XDefiant right now when we take a look at how large an update this was. I mean, it was recently announced the game would no longer be supported, refunds would go out to players for certain aspects, and then servers would go offline on June 3rd of 2025. So in response, the remaining XDefiant team was basically like, hey, let's just ship it all out. Who cares? So some things were added we would not see otherwise, while others didn't quite make the cut. Like, if you watch the Season 3 overview video from the Ubisoft channel, you might notice there are a few things absent from the overview to what's actually in-game. Things like the 90-tier Battle Pass. That's not in the game and won't be in the game since the game issued refunds and no longer is taking purchases of any kind. So, kind of hard to have a Battle Pass for sale when you've shut down the ability to purchase everything about the game. So, ultimately, this comes down to a just let them play type of moment. Obviously, all the content that was planned for the future further out seasons dropping. Also, every skin made available for the game is unlocked, which is pretty cool. So like weapon skins, operator skins, all that kind of stuff. You can use the mastery skins, purchase skins and camos, the ranked skins that you could end up getting. You could do all of that without having to do really anything. It's basically a private match where everything's unlocked, but you can still rank up alongside it. So to see all this content extending outwards of even Season 8, as Mark Rubin mentioned, it's bittersweet. I mean, I'm sure if you jump in and check this out, there will be something that catches your attention as, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. And that seems to be the communal reception for everybody along those lines from everything that I've seen so far. Just about every single comment that I saw on the Season 3 overview video from the Ubisoft channel was, wow, shutting it down as it gets good, or something like that. So that's where we're at. On one hand, being critical, this finally feels like a new game. But again, unfortunately, right as it's shutting down. Now, partially because there's actually a decent amount of content finally through Season 3 that I think should have been some baseline stuff, but also the fact that we're seeing multiple seasons introduced at once. Like, the content rollout still was flawed inherently, that if this was just another seasonal launch, it would make for the overall offering to be larger, yes, but I still think you'd see a lot of those down periods that you'd see from Season 1 and Season 2. I don't know that it would make too much an impact to the sort of post-launch progression of the game, but if you were to miraculously take everything that we have today and transport that back to last May and when the game launched for XDefiant, and we picked up from there, I think it's an entirely different story for the game. Right now, it feels like what I think is a finished product. Don't get me wrong, I love the game very clearly from the beginning. I mean, we've uploaded over 100 videos on XDefiant, but the thing from day one that I said and still think is true is the biggest side of the downfall is just content. Not like netcode or hitreg or anything like that, but there's just nothing that really keeps the game fresh beyond the fundamentals. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but what I mean by this is the game at launch last year was the exact same game that people played almost a year earlier in August and September of 2023. And even if you were a part of those sort of insider sessions that were genuinely just for feedback for the XDefiant team, no recording, no streams, no content, nothing, all the way back into like April of 2022, it was the same game, and I think that ultimately hurt the reception. There was just nothing new to experience. So now that you literally have 13 maps never played before, 3 new factions, a prestige progression system, faction mastery skins, a healthy set of modes to choose from, daily login bonuses, new weapons we haven't experienced, and even more, it feels complete. Finally. And this is the game that deserves a shot to thrive. So on that other hand, I think that the game absolutely should still at least have a little bit of support, a little bit of something to allow it to shine now with all of this out there. From recent reporting, it seems like it really wasn't too much of a sort of matter of interest or player counts. That, yeah, player counts were probably way lower than optimal, but it seems like Ubisoft is trying to divest on their end, where they're kind of sabotaging their projects so they can go private instead of a publicly traded company. And if that's the truth, that's messed up. So what I think makes this bittersweet, so like melancholic in my opinion, is that the fruits of what could have been being sent off with the final update for XDefiant. Like, from the beginning when this was announced it would be sunset to where we are now, my feelings stay the same, where there's a lot to feel about it, but ultimately it sucks to see. This game was a ton of fun to me. I had a blast playing it. Of course, posting it when there was still things happening as late as into the summer here for this past year. And I'm sad to see it go. I mean, I'll be jumping in and playing a bit here in the near future to get a larger grasp on everything and to experience what was hopefully going to be made for us to continue for years to come, but now only for a limited time, essentially. But I think the bigger thing that sucks is the situation and the impact on the industry at large. Firstly, on the human side of things, it's always awful to hear of people losing their livelihoods, especially when you know that most of the devs on this game are just pursuing their passions and dream jobs in games. And if you disagree with some of the design decisions, business models of the game, whatever, chances are they wouldn't have a say in those types of things. They're just clocking in, doing work that fulfills them, and then going on with their lives after 9 to 5, or in theory, 9 to 5. starting over is a terrifying thing, and as we've seen in the last few years in particular, the games industry is especially terrifying with the amount of layoffs and cuts made. So I do hope that everyone involved can find their way back on their feet. But what I also mean, just in the sense of like the genre as a whole for first-person shooters, is this just sucks for the fact of lack of competition now. I mean, look at it right now. The amount of frustration with Black Ops 6 and Warzone almost feels like it's at a boiling point. And sure, if you don't feel that way, that's great. If you're unfazed, I'm very happy you're enjoying every aspect of it. But while the vocal community is absolutely the minority of the player bases, I don't remember it being this loud and frustrated since at least Caldera's launch back in 2021. I don't know if I've seen it like that since, and before then, not entirely sure. But especially at a time right now, having minimal competition in the FPS space that can, it doesn't even have to challenge the throne, but like put some pressure on the throne. It's great for the consumer ecosystem. It's better for us, the players, when we have multiple options, because then people are going to try to do what they can to make the game better, to vie for your attention. Delta Force is a blast. I'll be touching on that one soon, but that's only in PC beta right now, and without any controller support, it severely limits the players that can air quote challenge anything. And then outside that, I mean, you have some extraction modes, but like in terms of just sheer arcade shooters, there's not a whole ton going on right now. In today's day and age, we need more standouts and more things that are just fun to play to challenge any status quo. And again, even if you're having zero issues with COD, frankly, just going for 100% or challenges at my own leisurely pace, I'm kind of in that category right now. Like, I'm not experiencing the amount of hackers that people are. I'm not experiencing the amount of game crashes as people are. I'm just experiencing the frustrations of stupid challenges. But even if you're unaffected by things, you should still want competition because it'll make it all the more enjoyable for the experience you're already enjoying. So that is where we're at. I mean, XDefiant now has had its final update. It's not going to be really supported at all going forward here. Maybe like a few bug fixes in the meantime, but the team has been minimized for sure at Ubisoft San Francisco, and it seems like right now is all that we're really gonna have. So Season 3, and I guess kind of 4, 5, 6, 7, and upwards of 8 is kind of in the books with how things have been distributed. But if you'd at all want to give XDefiant another try here before any sort of point of when things shut down, now is probably the best time. People are going to be jumping on, trying out the new content. You're going to find matches easily, and you'll probably enjoy at least some element here of it. So that is where we're at here at this. Just wanted to fill you guys in and touch on one final time XDefiant. So bittersweet moments, but let me know your thoughts down below. Anything you guys enjoyed out of the update if you've played it already, anything you're looking forward to jumping into, let me know. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things. Can't even say XDefiant anymore. Damn. That sucked, man. But yeah, anything FPS related, Black Ops 6 and even more stuff as we talked about. We'll have Delta Force and some other things coming up, but love to have you in the community. For now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.